Okay, today what I want to do is I wanted to continue our talk on grains just to help get a better understanding. But first, welcome to Stillworks and Brewing. My name is Randy and this is the channel that's all about home distillation and brewing. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put a card up here for our first grain video so you can check it out first if you want and then come back to this video. Alright, so I probably will be repeating some of the things from the other video, but it's all important and you can't never hear it enough. The different grains will affect the outcome of both beer and your distillate. And in the final product, beer, you will see the color, the taste, the mouthfeel, and the head, and you'll see it a lot more than the distillate. But nevertheless, in the distillate, you sure will find the taste and the mouthfeel and the smoothness in the distillate. Okay, so we have malted and unmalted grains, and but this is going to be a repeat. But some of the questions I get a lot is, what is the difference between 2-row and 6-row? As I said in the earlier video, it's the appearance-wise is on 2-row. It's got 2 rows of seed going up the pod, and most of the time the seeds are plumper and they have a thinner crust. Crust? That ain't right. Not a crust. The husk. And it tends to be a smoother and a cleaner tasting grain. Now 6-row, it has 6 rows that grows up the seed pod, and the biggest thing is it has a higher amount of enzymes, and that is really especially good for if you're doing a lot of adjuncts. And now I shouldn't say adjuncts. Say you're doing a bourbon and you got a lot of unmalted corn in there. Well, you need something to help lend its enzymes over into the corn to help, to convert that starch that's in that corn over into fermentable sugars. Because like corn has even if you have malted corn, it has very low enzyme power, and it just barely has enough to convert itself. Okay, so what I wanted to talk a little bit about is, let's start with malted grains. Your malted grains, and this goes, let me back up a little bit. A lot of people say that in the distilling world that you don't get much flavor from the different grains and stuff that's in your mash. I don't believe that. I think all that's in your mash will relate over into your distillate and into the final product. It makes a big difference. I mean, that's why sometimes you add fruits to your mash, or you distill wine. It all comes over in some fashion, and the better stuff that you put in, the better you're going to get out. Yeah, it's just like computers, junk in, junk out. Okay, so malted grains. Alright, there's a lot of different malted grains out there, but the very first is like your 2-row and your 6-row barley that we just talked about a minute ago. They're your workhorses. That's what they call the base malts. It makes up the majority of your mash, except for like bourbon. Bourbon has 51%, at least 51% is going to be corn, and but that's here and there. So it does make up, like in beer, it will make up the most. I like to use them pretty much everything because you want the enzymes out of the base malts to help convert everything else over into fermentable sugars. Let's see. Your crystal malts. Crystal malts are, what they are is, once the germination has the maltster, once he has done germinating the seed, he moves it over to a roaster, and that's going to change the colors, right? That's going to change the colors and the flavor, because what they're actually doing is they're kind of like roasting it in a way, and but to add some of the sugars that it was produced, it will caramelize, but basically it kills off the enzyme. So I call it for flavoring, and it's all different kind of flavoring. Toasted malts is the same thing. Toasted malts will give you like a nutty flavor. So if you're looking for like a nutty flavor or a toast flavor into your distillate or into your wort, whatever you're making, that's what your toasted malts are going to do. Okay, so the next one is roasted malts. What roasted malts, they're going to give you a strong flavor like chocolate or the coffee taste. I mean, I think that's like they're usually really dark like that. So that's what they do, is they actually roast it to a deeper color, and you will get some strong flavors out of that. Alright, so let's move over to unmalted grains. They're usually either raw, like here's some raw corn, right, or flaked, okay? But in order to use a raw grain, and it can be any raw grain you want, it's the whole seed, you'll grind it, but you actually have to cook it first. You have to cook it to get the starch out of that seed so that you can use it later on to convert it over into sugars. So that's what you have to cook it to get the starch out. Okay, and like corn, what I usually do is I will add boiling water to the corn ground, right, and it would have to be more or less cooked for an hour and a half and in a mash tun to get that starch out of that seed. And that could go for raw barley, raw wheat, any raw product, okay? You will have to cook it first. Now, a lot of people say, what about flaked? Okay, here's flaked corn, okay? Flaked corn, flaked wheat, flaked rice, flaked barley, and so on. It has already been gelatinized, okay? So when they heat it up, they roll it to make it flakes. So that cooking process is already done. So you do not have to cook flaked products. So you'd be able to put them right on in. There is no enzymes in that, none at all. So don't count on any enzymes from flaked, right? Not like two-row. That's what you're going to use it for. Okay. So, alright, so with that being said, what is some of the important temperatures, okay? Alright, so with the raw grains, you need to hold it somewhere like 200 degrees or a little less for about an hour and a half. Yeah, no, if it creeps down some, that's okay. You want to start at 200. For about an hour and a half. So that's the important temperature for that. Now the mashing in. So after you've done that, so the mash in temperature is, and what that would be is for your 2-row, your 6-row, your flake products and all that, you're mashing in. That's when you're converting the starches over into sugars. So what the magic numbers for that is, mash in, you want to be 145 degrees to 158 or 63 degrees Celsius to 7 degrees Celsius for about an hour and a half, okay? And that is the magic temp for that. Now, you got two different kinds of enzymes, just for a quick note. You got alpha and you got beta, and it all works together, okay? So alpha, it works from 152 degrees to 160 degrees. and that's 67 Celsius to 71 Celsius. And that is when it works the best. And then the beta works from 140 degrees to 151 degrees at 60 degrees Celsius to 66 degrees Celsius. And that's when it seems to work the best. Okay? Like I said before, the effects of grains on your final product, the effects of the different grains on beer, like I said before, they seem to be a lot more instantaneous and all that. You know, you'll see it when you're doing your wort. You'll see the color difference. You'll taste the color. The taste will be different and all that. And even when you make your final product on the beer, you know, of course, the grain is a lot, really prevalent right there. Now, the effects on the distilled products, I say they still are great too, except for the color, because everything that comes off the still is going to be clear. Anything that's colored, you know, brown or whatever, that's after the fact. That's what we do with aging and all that stuff. But like I said, everything that comes off the still is 100% clear, but it will taste different, and the mouthfeel will be different, and the smoothness and all that. This is just a touch on grain. You could spend a lot of time on grain. So, but if you want, if you're new to the hobby, do a little bit of experimenting and learn what does what. I mean, it's just like bourbon. Okay, bourbon tastes, to me, tastes different than any other kind of whiskey, and that one of the main reasons is corn. Bourbon needs to be 51% corn. A wheated bourbon, it has a lot of wheat in it. It tastes different than a regular bourbon. So yes, I feel the grains make a lot of differences in different things you're making. So enjoy it. All right. I hope I didn't get confuse you. Sometimes I confuse myself. But yes, just remember, raw grains, you got to cook them. And flake products, you do not. That's an important thing, and that's a question I get a lot of. So if I answered one of your questions, hey, thank you. All right. Call to action. Hey, if you get a chance, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share it with your friends, give us a thumbs up if you like what you see, and please leave a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time here on Stillworks and Brewing. Cheers, everybody.